going to be talking about user interface design in video games, which is kind of a strange beast because the games industry is, I don't know, it's a weird place. It can be dysfunctional. It can be kind of insular sometimes, but it's also full of like lots of great opportunities. And really, when I got into the position, this was back, one of the first games I worked on was Guitar Hero, and it was, I was kind of told I was coming in as like a graphic designer. And what you realize right away is when you're working on a small team that has like, tight deadlines, you end up taking on a lot of other responsibility, and you kind of just have to, adapt and kind of figure out ways to, to like rise to the challenge and kind of. So my role became much more kind of involved in like how do I communicate with the player, like how does the player interact with the game. And so yeah, I'm going to talk about that. But first, I just wanted to look at sort of the history of video game hardware, because this is like a place where I have almost like no control over stuff. You're making a game for a certain console, so you have to like kind of accept the conventions and the input methods and the controllers that it has. So, and if you like kind of look where games started, like sort of the arcade cabinet was like sort of the precursor to like home consoles, and these were purpose-built for one game. They had like well-labeled buttons, punch, kick. They did exactly what they said they did, and the instructions are right there in front of you. And it's like in a social context, so you can watch someone else playing and sort of understand how to play it yourself. And like when that became like the Atari 2600, like it was kind of designed almost more like a toaster or a radio, and that like all the options, all the switches were right there on the machine. There wasn't really a thought that like a game might have an option screen or something, or sort of different things within the game. It was just, it actually even has, I think this is funny, it has like a hardware difficulty switch, so you can set like easy, medium, or hard like right there on the console. And that's something that we're probably never going to see again on a modern console. But yeah, so you follow that evolution, and you get to like the NES controller. Like this is where I started out when I was a kid, and probably a lot of people here did. And it's simple. It's got 5 buttons. Most games you can figure out through trial and error, like Super Mario Brothers. So you can basically pick up the controller and start pressing buttons and see what happens, and kind of like, oh, okay, oops, I died. And so yeah, that's it's pretty easy to grasp. You don't need a lot of hand-holding. You don't need to explain too much what's going on there. But then you contrast that with now. Like the Xbox 360 controller compared to the Nintendo controller has like a zillion buttons, and I'm not even showing you the buttons on top. There's like 4 more up there, and so there's a lot more. Even a simple game has to use that controller, and so you kind of have to take that into consideration when you're kind of trying to explain how a game works to a new player. And I saw this article recently in the New Yorker where someone who had never played video games decided to try out the Xbox 360 and play like a lot of like current games as like an author and contributor. And so here was his experience like using the controller. To begin with, you must master the controller. On the Xbox 360 controller, which looks like a catamaran, there are 17 possible points of contact. You must press or nudge or woggle these various buttons singly or in combination, performing tiny feats of exactitude that are different for each game. It's a little like playing Blue Rondo a la Turk on the clarinet, then switching to the tenor sax, then the oboe, then back to the clarinet. And I mean, it's a good point. Like it's so easy to forget. Like that crazy controller like isn't something that's super obvious or super easy for everyone. Like people that are kind of already established gamers have kind of gone through the evolution of the controller and had buttons introduced to them incrementally over time. So kind of what we do, like a common way of dealing with sort of this complexity now is to sort of tutorialize games early on, to kind of teach players as they're playing the game how it's played and what buttons to press. And this can be, this is kind of it's a common solution, and people like things that they've seen in other games, and they're comfortable with putting it in their own. So I wanted to I didn't want to pick on any current games, so I decided to go back to Super Mario Brothers, and like, let's see what happens if we kind of try to tutorialize it like it's coming out now. Like, let's say it doesn't exist, how to play it isn't burned into like our collective unconscious. Let's say we have to make it like with the Xbox controller. Like, how do we do that? Oh, well, already there's instructions on the screen immediately. Oh, and it's stopping to tell you what's going on here and what button to press. oh, yep, yeah, you need to kind of jump like that. And yeah, still dead anyway. And then, oh, you died, and that's what that's about. So yeah, and that's kind of, my job is kind of about that balance. Like, how much do we tell the player without annoying them? Like, we don't want to negatively impact the experience. And if possible, we want to positively impact the experience. So I wanted to talk, well, first, before I get into it, I want to say every studio is different. Like, the one thing that's consistent about game studios is just their inconsistency. Like, so I'm going to be talking from my experience. I'm not promising you that this is super universal, though I think it is to some degree. And this word I wanted to share, first of all, when I was working at Harmonix on Guitar Hero, the art director, Ryan Lesser, liked to use this word, the metagame, a lot, which means, kind of in a general sense, it's the actual menus themselves. It's just what you have to navigate through to get to the game. But it's also, it also kind of has another meaning, which is like it's sort of the state of mind you want the player to be in. It's like how you want them to feel about the game. And like kind of if you look at Guitar Hero, there's no story there. It's a very simple game. But there's this implied narrative that you're like outside a concert and you're like looking at these cool rock posters. And it kind of just like puts you in the moment. And in terms of how user experience is kind of considered, it's definitely not as formally considered as I think a lot of people here might be accustomed to. But here, to steal another like video game symbol, here's the Triforce of user experience in game development. And these are kind of the people that are really thinking about how someone is experiencing the game. So so I'd be the user interface designer, kind of in the middle there, and I'm sort of drawing influence in two different ways, like from the game designer on one side, and this can be more than one person, more than one designer, and sort of the art or creative lead on the other side. And usually like any kind of like outside feedback that I have that comes from maybe play tests, or like if we've gotten people to come in and play the game, like that usually comes through one of these people to me, usually the game designer. And here's kind of how they influence it, like in a general sense. Like the game designer is all about like usability. Like they want the game to be simple and clear and effective. Like they don't want people getting bogged down and stuff or confused by the menus or anything like that. It should be, easily explained. And like kind of the art or creative lead, like they want the personality of the game expressed through the UI. Like they want it to really match the feel. Like they want it to be credible. And I kind of need to take all this in and kind of balance it and kind of try to add my own sort of ideas to it. And so it becomes sort of this thing of usability versus experience, because in a way, games don't have to be super utilitarian. Like people are playing them to have a good time. Like they're there for the experience. So if the UI can contribute to that experience in a way, like it's a good thing. And I wanted to share kind of a recent example of that. So I don't know if a lot of people here played Brutal Legend, but this was the last game I worked on at Double Fine. And it was my first game there. And so this was like some concept art from it. Like it was already in development before I started there. And I knew it was like this really just completely unique and really crazy looking game from Tim Schafer. And like it just had this it had this reputation as being like a very different, like unique sort of game. And so I kind of wanted to find a way to represent that. So when I was kind of tasked with creating the front end, or the main menu for the game, I pitched this idea to Tim Schafer, who's the creative director. What if since so much of the artwork is inspired by sort of these gatefold albums from the 70s, like what if we just made an actual gatefold record album and just like took all this sort of influence and like pushed it into that, and then we have this actual kind of physical album that we throw in front of the player, and that's what they navigate through. Like that's the first thing they see when they turn on the game. And he was into it, and that's what we ended up doing. So this is the menu. Actually, I'll just let this play. So basically, what happens is Jack Black is talking to you as the player, takes you into this record store, and like grabs this record out of the back and puts it down. And you're like right away, the player isn't. I mean, it doesn't really look like a menu, but you see press start. You press it, it opens, and you kind of realize you can control this sort of unique interface in front of you. And it's sort of intuitive because people know how to like a lot of people at least, have looked through a vinyl album, like stared at the artwork, like taken the record out, just like examining it, especially like kind of old like these gatefold albums, which have like just crazy art all over them. And that became the menu. And what you're seeing here is the final version of it. And what's funny is, like, I was really happy with the way it came together in the end. Like, it was kind of like an ordeal to make it happen, but it came together, and it was awesome. And this was like 2 months away from shipping the game, and I loved it, but some people didn't. Some people were worried about this. In fact, our publisher was really worried about it because they were concerned that because you couldn't see, I mean, obviously, like, the usability isn't great. You can't see all the options at once, and they were worried. People are not gonna find multiplayer. People are not gonna be able to make sense of this. This doesn't look right. So then we had to kind of come up with all these sort of solutions to try to solve the problem, which may not have actually been a problem. In my mind, it wasn't a problem, but sort of all these ideas were thrown around of ways of just putting text on the screen, and none of them felt right. They all kind of felt like they were detracting from this like kind of cool experience. And kind of my first instinct when I was kind of thinking, I was being told we have to solve this, what do we do? Well, maybe we can tutorialize it, maybe we can explain it to the player. So I kind of created this, and I got a response from Tim saying, man, that's like a big old apology for our awesome album. So after that, I decided to just kind of back off, and we couldn't find a solution that everyone was happy with, so it ended up shipping without text all over the screen. And people loved it. Like, gamers really responded to it, like, all over the internet. Like, when the demo came out, like, it felt different, but it felt right for the game. Like, it really kind of emphasized what people wanted to see from the game, and it was unexpected. And I think that's one of the things that people really enjoyed about it. Yeah, and another thing it did was it even created this discussion where people started talking about like other interesting UIs and other interesting menus they'd seen in games. And it was cool because you don't really see that often. Like, gamers don't usually talk about UI unless it's really, really bad. So it was nice to see that for a change. So why isn't there more challenging UI design? Like, why isn't there more weird stuff out there? Or lessons I've learned? Well, there's a lot of challenges. It's tough to get people to buy into your idea because you really need that kind of support if you want to do something a little weird. And obviously, like, an easy, simple UI is always going to be less controversial, and it's less work, and that can play a big factor. But there's the usability. Like, a very simple, easy to use menu is the advantage that is obvious during development because people in the office are going to be playing the game all the time, and so if something is simple and easy to use, they're going to respond to that. If something's different but has a lot of personality and is kind of like unique, some people will love it, but some people will be kind of nervous about it because it's a little harder to use. And the reason I mentioned an easy UI is also less work. It's because there's like an unglamorous part of my job, which is like localizing to all these foreign languages. Like, if I put art in a texture, then I have to remake it 4 times over for like Italian and German and French and Spanish. And like the tools we use, aside from Photoshop, which is the same everywhere, like most of the tools that I use for getting stuff into the games, like I've worked in 3 different studios and I've had 3 different tools. So there's always a learning curve involved. And it's a one-person job. Like, you have like a lot of responsibility thrown onto you. And but I also actually put that as a good thing. Like, because it's a one-person job, you can actually make a huge difference, especially on small teams. Like, it's it's basically just a matter of like saying, hey, can I do this cool thing? And hopefully someone else is into it too, and then they'll be like, yeah, go ahead. And you're also responsible for like the game's first impression. There's like the packaging. Like, I know a lot of us here are probably like Apple fans, and like Apple packages their products really well, and putting a good metagame around a game is kind of the same thing. It's the packaging. It's like what gets people excited, and it's like what reflects the style of the game. Yeah, so to wrap it up, I just want to talk about the future, because I opened talking about like how complicated controllers have gotten, but we're actually at like an interesting point now where we're starting to see like kind of, instead of each system being this like more powerful, more advanced console, like we're starting to see that go in different directions now. Like, you had the Wii, which wasn't super powerful, but had this different control mechanism, and people responded to that. And now there's like iPhone gaming has become huge, and like that was never intended as a gaming platform originally, but now it's like bringing a lot of people that might not have been into games, getting them introduced. And Microsoft has Kinect coming out soon, where there will be no controller at all, and I think that that's like another great way to bring in people that might not be really familiar or really kind of daunted by that complicated Xbox controller. So yeah, it's an exciting time to be in UI. There's going to be like a lot more sort of opportunities going forward for people that are interested in getting involved, and it pays to be bold. And that's my talk. Thanks.